Okay, election results are coming in thick and fast from the Irish presidential election. The Irish electorate went to the polls yesterday being Friday. They cast their ballots. Record lows, I believe, in terms of turnout, voter turnout, but record highs in terms of the amount of spoiled votes that were coming in. And literally they're coming in this morning thick and fast. I'm going to be speaking in a second to Mr. John Wilson to get his analysis of this or his first reactions to this. Obviously, the full results won't be known until the end of the day. Connolly looks to have won it, but that's no surprise. The bookies, Paddy Powers, were already paying out on her winning this about 2 weeks ago. That is no surprise. However, there is a huge amount of people out there that are patently unhappy with the lack of choice, with the shenanigans and the skullduggery that went on around this presidential sham farce that's becoming more farcical and shambolic, literally, as the hours go by. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Mr. Wilson. First of all, good morning. Thanks for joining me. And gut reactions, visceral reactions, hit me with it.
Good morning, Rick. This is going to be recorded as the greatest shellacking that our political establishment ever received, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
Of the many elections that have been held in Ireland over the years, today is a triumph of the Irish state over Ireland. And what I mean by that is Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, or should I more rightly say Messrs Martin and Harris, gerrymandered the presidential electoral nomination system to ensure that either Heather, hi, I'm Heather, Beyonce Humphreys, or Jim, the Thai soldier, Gavin, would be the next president of Ireland. And that gerrymandering has backfired spectacularly. And I'll go so far as to say, if this shellacking had happened to the Conservatives under Kemi Badenoch or the Labour Party in the UK under two-tier Keir, they would both have resigned before the returning officer announced the result of the election. That's how serious this is. This is really, it shows Ireland up as being some kind of a little tin pot dictatorship on the outskirts of mainland Europe. This has been an appalling kicking. I mean, I'd say that if Micheál Martin and Harris are not now hiding in dark corners somewhere in Dublin and Cork, then there's something greatly lacking in both of them, which there is, of course. We know that already.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that shellacking or that kicking has been delivered by the far left and Sinn Féin, which is very troubling. We're now on the verge of a full-blown communist becoming the Ireland's first citizen, and that in itself is very concerning. This is a woman who believes that there are multiple genders. She believes that there should be an extra gender added to the number of genders in Ireland. She's not just happy with male and female anymore. She also supports uncontrolled mass immigration into Ireland, which is also very troubling. But here we are. This result is a definitive damning indictment on the Irish political establishment.
It surely is. Although, let's be brutally honest about it. When you talk about we're getting a nasty communist in the Irish, there's been one in there for the last 14 years anyway, although it could be argued that Connolly is, Michael D. Higgins, left-wing socialism on steroids. We'll park that and get back to it, though. Just interestingly, John, for a month or two now, we've been talking about this, the build-up to this election, and we have been encouraging the listeners to this channel to spoil their votes. And, polling, exit polls, various organizations are set up for exit polls. I can say this, between yourself and Vincent Carroll and Mark Anthony, very, very vocal in pushing this spoil your vote concept. as early as Maria Steen was eliminated or excluded. Let me say she was excluded from this race. As soon as that happened, actually, I can remember it was at midday on a certain day. It was officially announced that she was not going to be in the ballot paper. I can remember recording an episode of this with Mark Anthony at 12:01 p.m. And as soon as we knew for sure that Maria Steen was off the ballot, then we advocated for spoiling the vote. You've advocated for it. Vincent Carroll's advocated. Many people have advocated for it, pushing for this spoil the vote. Now, this is a channel, but there are quite a number of people who listen to these videos in the scheme of things. But from what I saw, the comments underneath these videos, people were saying, you know what, I hadn't thought about this, but I'm definitely going to go out and spoil my vote. Literally comments numbering thousands would have said that they were going out to spoil their votes. So we can't downplay the influence of independent media, of social media, of word of mouth. I know, for example, you were sitting at a rural polling station yesterday when a figure approached your car at great velocity. If you want to just share that story and give this lady a shout out.
Great lady. Yeah,
what happened?
Wonderful lady. She approached and she knocked at the window, and I opened the window. She says, "You don't know me, but I know you, and I know Rick Munn. I watched No Risk, No Reward." And she expressed she expressed how grateful that she is for the podcast that you are making. And I phoned you up, and you phoned me back, and you spoke to the lady, and she was very, very grateful and very happy to speak to the great Rick Munn.
Well, now let's be honest about this. You're very humble. The only reason why she said any of that was because she recognized you, not me. She'd seen you on speaking several times, and she literally darted up to you as you were sitting in the car and introduced herself. And you know, you were taken aback by that, not so much by the fact that somebody knew you, but the fact that it was, early in the morning on a Friday morning in some, arsehole of nowhere polling station.
I beg your
rural
pardon. It's not the arsehole of nowhere, Rick. Please correct. Apologise for that rude remark.
I'm sorry.
Withdraw that remark.
It was the buttock of nowhere, but in rural Cavan, if I'm not mistaken. But, it just goes to show you influence can be felt. And I think that did translate into people's voting at the ballots. Now, I just want to look at some figures, some statistics here, just to give our viewers something to, get their teeth into. This is just an overview of the polls closing last night. They closed at 10 p.m. last night, Friday night. There were more than 5,000 polling stations. Ballot boxes have now been transferred to their counting centres. They're now being counted as we speak. The results will come in later on today, the official results. So around 3.6 million people were eligible to vote for the successor to Michael Higgins. Turnout in rural parts of Monaghan, where Humphreys was supposed to be a favourite, there were around 60%, but average turnout across the country, the country varied from 30% to 40%. These are record lows. I think the numbers when they finally come in will be sub 40%. The last presidential election, the turnout was only 43.9%, the lowest ever. They're using as an example a poll in Munster, down round in the Cork area. So the latest recordings from Munster were in Cork City. The combined turnout for Cork City, which is Micheál Martin's stomping ground, around 41%, 38.5% in 3 Cork constituencies, which is terrible. Some places it was down to 31 to 33%. In Moyross, it was 22%. So in some parts of Ireland, approximately 1 in 5 people are turning out. So 4 in 5 people decided to stay home because of what? What would you attribute that to, John? The apathy. What would you attribute that voter apathy to?
Because they saw no point in turning out the vote. They've lost all faith in our political process, and that is a dangerous thing. It may suit our political masters now today that that's the case, that people are not willing to come out and vote and express their rage against them. But unfortunately, there's going to come a time, as I said many times, Ireland is a pressure cooker, and I'm afraid that the lid is about to blow off. Apathy, yes, but people just say, sure, what's the point in turning out? They're all the same. Why should I bother turn out? Not just in this presidential election, but in all elections. I mean, the number of people turning out to vote is reducing at every election, which is very, very troubling and very, very concerning. And eventually, I mean, a lot of these people, they have a righteous anger.
Yeah.
And eventually that anger is going to translate into something more robust, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a feeling really of, it's kind of, as I said, we are, many Irish people, a very high percentage of Irish people have become conditioned into accepting mediocrity from our politicians, from our governments, from our political institutions, from every aspect of official Ireland, government departments, every aspect of the governance of this great country. And as such, it allows these people staying away from the ballot box, allows Messrs. Martin and Harris et al. To continue along this disastrous road that they're leading us down.
Yeah.
But eventually, the lid on the pressure cooker is going to blow off. And I really nobody in their right mind wants to see that happening. But I'm afraid it may sooner than we expect become a reality here in this country. The level of vitriol and hatred towards Micheál Martin and Simon Harris, and of course they're the two figureheads. It's very, very telling. There was a time people used to mutter in their kitchens and mutter to themselves or to their friends. Now they're expressing this vitriol openly and publicly, which should be of great concern to Mr. Martin. I met another fan of yours yesterday evening in Aldi in Cavan as well.
Right.
So really, your fan base is growing. It's growing rapidly, Rick. You can't. People are just fed up. Just fed up. And a lot of the people that voted for Catherine Connolly did so as a protest vote as well. I mean, they weren't fully embracing her either, because they know she's a communist. Unfortunately, my biggest regret about Catherine Connolly's election is the fact that it will embolden the far left in this country. It will embolden them. It'll also embolden Sinn Féin, or the New Communist Party of Ireland. They should rename themselves. And after, even as recently as the last November, the 29th of November last year, after we elected the same traitorous politicians by and large back into Leinster House, I thought that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and I predicted that they were going to be in power for the foreseeable future. I've changed my mind. If there were to be an election held today, I believe that Sinn Féin, Mary Lou McDonald, would be the Taoiseach of Ireland.
Yeah.
The communism, the left wing, the hard left in this country are growing rapidly. And I mean, you can't blame. We have young men and women in their 20s and 30s working very, very hard, and they can't afford rent, let alone to buy a house. And they're not going to vote for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. They're not going to vote for the traditional parties. And the sons and daughters of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael stalwarts, many of the sons and daughters of stalwart Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael supporters are now switching to vote for Sinn Féin and other left-wing parties.
But again, but again, it's almost. I'm not going to say it's gerrymandering in the same way, but if they don't vote for Fianna Fáil and they don't vote for Fine Gael, then the only option left is Sinn Féin, effectively. The same way that when Jim Gavin was eliminated, Maria Steen was excluded from this. Voters only had two options, well, three options, the third option being effectively more potent than voting for Heather Humphreys, which was to spoil the vote. But it was really just a two-horse race, and effectively it's been a one-horse race in this election for a very, very long time. So if you wanted to rebel against who was almost a penalty kick in an open net to be crowned as the next president, you only had two options. One was Heather Humphreys. Jim Gavin, forget about that. The third option was to spoil your vote as a protest. But either way, Connolly was getting in. That's why I'm saying, this need this desperate need for an alternative to be set up for disenfranchised
Oh,
young people. They
urgently.
have nowhere else
Oh
to
yeah.
go
No,
but to
no,
be
no, no,
funneled towards
no.
Sinn Féin.
No, you see, but the problem. See, the problem is, Rick. Yeah, and I am working with some people at the moment, and I mean, I'm a small cog in a large wheel, but we're trying to set up an alternate. We're trying to set up a new political movement, and to harness the passion of the many tens of thousands of people that have protested in Dublin and around the country against the invasion of our country by these tens of thousands of criminal illegal aliens. The passion is there.
Yeah.
People want a new political movement. And if we can harness this passion into setting up a new political movement, I have no doubt that such a political movement will thrive in this country. There are an awful lot of people in this country that they feel voiceless. There are hundreds of thousands. There are literally hundreds of thousands of Irish men and Irish women that feel voiceless in this country. They feel they have no voice. These are the people that vote at every election, but they still believe that they have no voice into how this country is run. And they're right. They have no voice. We have the sham. Our elections are just merely shams. We end up with the same. We end up with the same politicians back in power again. We end up with the same tune being played by a different orchestra.
Yeah.
We're no longer a sovereign people. We take our instructions from. Our government takes their instructions and their orders from our European masters.
Yeah.
I think it's at least 70% of all Irish law, of the laws enacted in our parliament, are merely transposing EU directives into Irish law. If we can harness the passion that we have seen on the streets over the last couple of years, the passion of the many tens of thousands of people that have protested, peacefully protested against the invasion of our country, then I can tell you something else. We will create a powerful new right of centre political party, a powerful new conservative movement.
Well,
I know it's a big deal.
If there was ever a time, now's the time.
We've had this. We've had this discussion many times.
Yeah.
But Irish people, it takes a lot to change the views of Irish people. We are very much set in our ways. Until Nigel Farage and Reform came along, it was always you either got the Labour Party in power or the Conservative Party in power. Okay, I know that the Lib Dems are there, but I can say, oh, God help us. I mean, they're an atrocious show of idiots. I mean, listen, I know we're not here to talk about UK politics, but no, I'm talking about up to date. Up to this point in time, Irish people have been wedded to either Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. The Progressive Democrats were set up 40 years ago by Michael McDowell. I think nobody in this country has disappointed me more than Michael McDowell over what he did to Maria Steen. I mean, my God Almighty, what that man, if that man had endorsed Maria Steen, she would now be on the verge of becoming the next Uachtaráin Ahern. But anyhow, that's in the past. We can't dwell in the past.
We need new. We need.
If
it doesn't happen now, right?
Yeah.
You know, this is the last probably window. If these emotions and this passion and this enthusiasm for these hundreds of thousands, you know, it could be in the millions of people that are so disenfranchised and so dejected and so despondent and so angry and so frustrated with everything that's going on. If there's ever been a time to harness that, it is now. And if it is not harnessed and it is not capitalized, well then on our own heads be it.
A drowning man will cling on to anything that he can get his hands on to try and save himself. All right. Independent Ireland were seen as a political movement that had potential to lead us to the promised land.
Disgraceful.
I've never been so wrong about any movement as I've been about Independent Ireland. They voted for Simon Harris. They voted confidence in Simon Harris.
Unforgivable.
There was no need to do it. There was
unforgivable.
No need. I mean, what in the name of Christ are they trying to do? I mean, they voted confidence, I'd say, in one of the worst politicians, if not the worst politician that has ever entered through the gates of Leinster House. I mean, how that idiot even made it into Dáil Éireann is a mystery to me. And then we have Richard O'Donoghue, then he voted for Catherine Connolly, for Catherine the Communist Connolly.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I've heard people talking about, oh, Catherine Connolly will be an illegitimate president of Ireland. She will not. Constitutionally, Catherine Connolly is about to become the legitimate, duly elected president of Ireland. Uachtaráin na hÉireann.
Yeah.
And this old garbage about she'll be illegitimate. She will not. She will be a legally elected president of Ireland.
Yeah.
The reality is that but the sad reality is that in 6 months' time, she will have a favorability rating of around 80%, because after a few grandmotherly fireside chats and a few negative comments about America and Israel, she will be very popular in Ireland. I mean, she will be regarded. She will be held in very high regard in this country. That's a sad reality. That's the way we roll in this country. But her election may do some damage to our country too.
Yeah.
It hasn't gone unnoticed, the anti-American voices that have emanated from Ireland, and the anti-American comments that are regularly made by some of our prominent politicians and by our bought and paid for mainstream media have not gone unnoticed in the boardrooms of America.
Yeah.
And our anti-Israel stance as well could result in Ireland becoming an economic wasteland sooner than we all think. Abbott, the medtech company in Galway, has announced job redundancies. I'm hearing on the grapevine that Intel may be about to pull out their entire operation out of Ireland. Now, I know many of these decisions are made for economic reasons, but our anti-American stance, we are seen as being a very hostile country to America. We are seen as being very hostile to both America and to Israel, which is not a very good idea.
No, certainly not when it filters down to the economics of a country, because politics and economics are almost inextricably
but we have, as I said,
linked.
we have the highest number of Trump haters in Ireland per capita in Europe, if not the world. And we have the highest number. I mean, the anti-Israel feeling here, it's shocking. When was the last time a Jewish person strapped on a suicide vest and blew up a music venue full of young people? It never happened.
Yeah. Well, let's look at this here, just on the subject of vote spoiling, right? Let's keep it onto the vote spoiling here.
This is the positive.
Positive in inverted commas, but this is a reflection. Let's be honest about it. This came out here this morning. One box from Dublin South Central. So in a total, in this one box of 163 votes, Heather Humphreys gets 20. Jim Gavin gets 11. Spoilt votes gets 106. Sorry, Catherine Connolly got 163. There was a total of 300 votes. She got 163. Humphreys 20. Gavin 11. Spoilt 106. So effectively, when you add together the second and third placed candidates, which is Humphreys and Gavin, they amounted to 30. The amount of people that spoiled their votes outnumbered those that voted for the second and third candidates by a factor of 3-1, and almost was 50-50 with the so-called winner here, which was Catherine Connolly. Another this is just to give people an idea, and this is actually reported by RTE as well. Okay, so when they're reporting this, there's no way they can get away from the figures that are coming in. A box in Cherry Orchard in Dublin South Central has spoiled as many spoiled votes as there are votes for Catherine Connolly. Tally people also reported higher than expected spoiled votes in Dublin Northwest, where a significant number was expected. And then one of the commentators, and I want to get back to this comment as soon as I show you the next slide, I want you to comment on this. If this trend holds nationwide, should it be the end for Martin and Harris? So just before we get your response to that, that's one of the tallies there also in Dublin, where the amount of spoiled votes is higher than the amount of votes for the president. And look at that, Heather Humphreys coming in there with 7 votes versus 100 and I think that's 128. Either way, you're talking about almost 20 to 1, John. 20 to
Oh
1
yeah,
outpolled by spoiled votes. So
yeah.
going back to this is just again, look, there's hundreds of these polling stations. Will be reporting hundreds of results today. It's going to vary, but I suppose the message or that I want to get across here is that this spoil the vote campaign that's been championed by many, many people over a period
Mm.
of time since Maria Steen was excluded, it has caught significantly. And this drubbing of Heather Humphreys, and I mean drubbing of Heather
Oh yeah,
Humphreys, it's
yeah.
it's beyond embarrassing, surely, for Fine Gael.
Last week, in the aftermath of the debacle over the non-nomination of Maria Steen and the criticism that has been directed towards me, rightfully directed towards Micheál Martin and Simon Harris. I was, despite all the what I regard as noise coming against them, I was sure that Micheál Martin. It looked very likely, and I was fairly certain that Micheál Martin was going to survive as leader of Fianna Fáil. I was talking to a man a couple of nights ago who was in Leinster House a couple of days ago, and he was chatting to a very prominent Fianna Fáil man, Fianna Fáil politician. And the belief is that there's going to be a major heave against Mr. Martin, against Micheál Martin within the next couple of weeks. The information is that many members of the parliamentary party, they were going to wait until the outcome. They are going to wait until the outcome of this election. And if it continues to be as disastrous, such a disastrous result for both Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, I think there's no doubt that there's going to be a major heave against Micheál Martin. And I would say the same thing will happen to Harris. I would say that the chances of the two of them being in situ by Christmas is very, very slim. Now, I express my cynicism towards what this man kind of was said to me. But they're going to have to do something. I mean, if the ordinary rank and file members of Fianna Fáil don't kick up over this, and the parliamentary members don't kick up over this, then there's no hope for them. There's no hope for either party. I'd say this is the greatest disaster. This is the greatest kicking that our political establishment have ever got. Unfortunately, the kicking has been done by people that are really no good for this country. Communism is never good. Socialism, really, communism never works. It never works. And unfortunately, we are going in this country. Ireland is going towards the left, while many other countries in Europe are going to the right. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Is this result going to be a sea change in our politics? Listen, is it going to be a watershed moment in Irish politics? I don't know. History has taught us no, it won't be, but you never know. I mean, if you had told people in the UK 2 years ago that Nigel Farage would be on the fast track to becoming the next British Prime Minister, they would have laughed at you. But now they're not laughing now.
No,
you know what I mean? They're not laughing now. If it can happen in the UK, it can happen here. We are very like the people in the UK. We don't like political change. We just like replacing Tweedledum with Tweedledee.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been since the foundation of our great state here. We'll see, but we need something. We need something to happen very, very fast. We need a new political movement. We need the bickering and all this fighting and kind of the
childishness.
Yeah, the childishness and
Let's
the ego.
call it a spade. Childishness.
The ego-driven. The destructive, ego-driven mess that the new Irish nationalist movement is at present, despite the fact that there are so many people crying out for leadership. I still stand by what I said. We are one articulate, charismatic leader away from a populist revolution in Ireland, but it's a matter of once we manage to remove that first domino, and that won't be easy to do, the other dominoes they'll all fall down. But I mean, I know. Listen, I don't want to sound like a pessimist. There's a reason I don't have many friends is because I'm a straight shooter and I don't tell people what they want to hear. It's not going to be easy to remove. It's not going to be easy to remove that first domino. But if it's a big if If we can manage to remove that first domino, the other dominoes will fall very, very fast. We have one election to save Ireland. I'm not being paranoid when I say that, but I mean, I'm not being over dramatic. We have one election to save Ireland and to reverse the disastrous policies of this traitorous government and our previous traitorous government and the traitorous government before that one as well. We're going to have to carry out a full review. We're going to have to stop giving out citizenship. We're going to have to halt our citizenship program. We're going to have to carry out a full review of the Irish citizenship program, going back maybe at least 2 decades, and we're going to have to remove citizenship from many people that have received it over the last 2 decades or so, and we're going to have to carry out mass deportations as well. That's just to save our country.
Mm-hmm. Well, the egg timer. Listen,
as the first step to save our country.
The egg timer was turned over again in November of last year, when the last elections happened, and I think end of November 2024. So technically speaking, there's 4 years before the next round comes in at the latest. Okay, or just over a shade over 4 years. It's not long, but if there is a concerted, focused, well executed, no nonsense, no BS push, I think because of the amount of disillusionment on the side, on the amount of people that could be hoovered up to back a legitimate centre-right party to go forward, because the ones that are there, you mentioned Independent Ireland. I mean, like, the fact that I had my doubts about them, serious doubts, as a voice to you, whenever they didn't come straight out and back Maria Steen. You rightly said, look, they will fall in, they will back her, which they did, but they left it to the 11th hour and 59 minutes and 59 seconds before they did it. And then the fact that they went and got behind Simon bloody Harris, I mean, like, there's no excuses for that whatsoever. That just puts a big cross through that independent movement there, as far as I'm concerned. There is nothing else out there. There is a willingness, I believe, and a hunger and a thirst for people to get behind something, but there's nothing really for them to get behind at the minute. There are good people out there. There are good people out there, but there's a lot of headers out there too, a lot of space cadets out there, a lot of egomaniacs out there, and a lot of immature, regressed muppets out there that are leading people here, there, and everywhere. Unless there's a focused getting together and no nonsense approach, no BS approach, no people with baggage hanging off them and infantile attitudes. Unless that happens, and it can happen, but unless it does happen, it's game over.
Something very disturbing happened during the protest at City West a couple of nights ago. A journalist from Canada who has put what's happening in Ireland on the international map, and that's Ezra Levant. He was pepper sprayed by the guard, yes, but he was also assaulted by a protester who came out with the crowd and clocked him. I'm not going to go into any more details about who I believe that man is connected to, but he was assaulted. And Ezra Levant has put what's happening in Ireland on the world map. He has. I mean, the massive coverage that we're getting here, that the new Irish nationalist movement are getting abroad, has stemmed directly from Ezra Levant's coverage of the invasion of Ireland. But in going back to independent Ireland, I said I wasn't going to attempt to be humorous in this podcast, but independent Ireland and Aintu are currently fighting a turf war, which is akin to two bald men fighting over a comb. That's a fact. I'm sorry if I insult anybody, but Aintu and independent Ireland are not going to save Ireland.
No.
If they do continue to exist, they will continue as two little fringe parties. That's a sad reality. And I don't mean to insult. I know there's one prominent Aintu man that watches all of these podcasts, and I really don't want to insult. I really, really don't want to insult anybody. But they are like two bald men fighting over a comb. They're fighting. There's a turf war between the two parties.
Pater Tobin did catch the moment coming up to the nominations for this
He did, yeah.
election. He did. He was a very vocal supporter of Maria Steen. In fact, he would have been, you could have argued the toss that he was pushing aggressively for independent Ireland to get their fingers out of
Yeah.
their asses and nominate her as well. So, listen, no one's perfect. Not even you and I, John, believe it or not, even us, many people think we're perfect, but the reality, the sad reality is anything but. The fact of the matter is, it's like everything else. You put it in the balance, right? You put it in the balance. As long as the good should outweigh the bad, right? The
Yeah.
problem that we have at the minute is by a mile, the bad outweighs the good with just about
Yeah.
every option that we have out there. So, in summary, and I wanna close this because I'll tell you why. I want to get this out. I want people to hear this. And no doubt there'll be more discussion of this happening over the next week or the next few days as the official counts and tallies and everything come in. But I believe, and even on this platform too, there's people listen to this and thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands and thousands and thousands of people will comment under these videos and they would catch or be caught by a groundswell movement towards a legitimate, no nonsense, no baggage, no messing around, no ego, something to be formed sooner rather than later. So, it's disappointing to see Connolly, but it's not a surprise to see her winning this. However, I think a lot of positivity can be taken out of the drubbing, and I mean drubbing, that Humphreys and Gavin, although he's already eliminated, adding to the farce with the spoiled vote campaign, and those people aren't going to get any less disenfranchised as time goes on with Connolly. They're going to get more disenfranchised, and I believe this hunger and thirst for an alternative will grow. What do you say?
I'm very happy about the high level of spoil votes. It's amazing. It's an amazing. I mean, if we can harness this passion into forming a new political movement, if we can harness this passion to put a leadership structure in place on the new Irish nationalist movement, we will be victorious. We are the many, and Mr. Harris et al. Are the few.
Yeah.
Mr. Martin, Mr. Harris et al. Are the few. But just to repeat what I said earlier on, today the triumph of the Irish state. Today is the triumph of the Irish state over Ireland. Now, a very learned man coined that phrase, not me. I probably mangled it when I tried to say it earlier on. But there's one thing I want to just mention before we finish. It's on a totally separate issue. And I want to encourage everybody watching this podcast to sign up to please join the She Was Only 10 social media campaign. She Was Only 10 refers to the brutal attack on the young 10-year-old girl in the grounds of the Plantation Centre in City West a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I think it's a great campaign. I saw that phrase used on a large number of the spoil votes yesterday. She Was Only 10. Please join the She Was Only 10 campaign on social media. I would encourage everybody. And again, can I say, I want to thank the many people that watch these podcasts. I am really, really, to reiterate what I said a couple of weeks ago, I am really humbled by all of the positive comments. I don't deserve them, but I'm really, really appreciative of all of the great comments, the positive comments and the favorable comments that have been directed to both myself and yourself. I mean, I really, really appreciate them.
Yeah, I can testify he really doesn't deserve them, but he's not a bad stick. Again, when you put everything in the balance, the good does outweigh the bad. I
really, there was one lady commentated that she loves John Wilson in the last one after the land, in response to the last podcast. And again, it made my head swelled up with pride when I read that comment. But anyhow,
it was actually me. It was actually Micheál Martin's second account on my channel, so don't get too excited. It was Micheál.
I have to challenge you over using that term to describe that traitor's bastard. I mean, it makes him sound humorous, and there's nothing humorous about that traitor, I can assure you. Listen, I know this is not a day to be humorous. This is a day, okay, I'm extremely happy about the large volume of spoil votes. fantastic. It's great, and it sends a clear message to the aforementioned Mr. Martin and Mr. Simon Harris et al. That the Irish people are no longer willing to be cowed down and to be led along down this destructive road that these political eunuchs are leading us down. But I hope today proves to be. I hope today proves to be a watershed moment as well. I hope people finally realize that now that we're going to have a full-blown communist as our number one citizen, that it's time to stand up and be counted. And if we all stand up and be counted and unite, we can and we will take this country back. We can and we will take our country back. This is Ireland, our Ireland, and we will fight like hell to save them.
There you go. So yes, let's take some positivity from this, and let's not be afraid to laugh, because I do believe, John, that it's humor, even albeit dark humor, is keeping us afloat in these dark, treacherous, insane days in which we're living in. So for now, anyway, like I said, just wanted to get your first reactions on this morning. So the polls are still coming, or the votes are still being counted, but there's going to be no surprises. But let's not take away from the fact that this huge spoil your vote turnout is massively significant and could be this watershed moment that we desperately have been craving and want to trigger on the next steps in deposing this current government. So for now, anyway, John Wilson, big thanks to you beaming in from Cavan. I'm Rick Munn, stuck away up in the corner of North Down. For now, I am Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media, and we are over and out.